Well, hello, and welcome to episode 106 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, this week in the lobby bar, you shared with everyone a drink, the Caipirinha, from your travels to Brazil over this past week. But, now you're back. We are back in the throes of holiday movie month. We're going to be talking about a tale that is just as dangerous, just as scary as last week's film, Die Hard. When we dig into, what happens if bandits are coming to your house to terrorize you and steal all of your family stuff. That's what we're going to be getting into today. But before we do that, what have you been up to? Been watching anything good? Let us know what you've been up to.
Oh, so I've seen a new film, Slumberland. It has Jason Momoa in it, and it. I thought it was a Christmas film. It's got Chris O'Dowd, Kyle Chandler, who is amazing if you love Friday Night Lights,
Yeah, who doesn't?
and yeah, right. And Marlo Barkley, who I have seen a couple of times in a couple of different things and really enjoyed. That was a fun film. I don't know if it was like the most amazing film I've ever seen. It's
Mm,
visually actually pretty cool. The effects are pretty neat.
yeah.
And it's really I would say a good family friendly. It came out in early November, so it's been around a month, but I just not got a chance to see it, and I recommend it.
Okay, very good, very good. You're always tuned in whenever a Jason Momoa film comes out. It seems like you're uh
um
you're you're dialed
mm,
in on that. I don't know, or maybe it's the Kyle Chandler. Maybe that's who you're
it's,
dialed in
it's
on. I
much
don't
more
know
the
for
Kyle
sure.
Chandler for me than Jason Momoa, I have to say. But I will say this is one of his better acting films that I've seen. That might
Uh,
not be saying much to some people, but
he was in Dune. Calm down. He was in Dune. Calm down. So,
okay, fair
so,
enough, fair play
so,
there.
so that's enough of that. That's enough of that. But yeah, you were in Brazil for the week. I made it out to the theater twice this week, which is unprecedented territory for me. But I had to go and see Glass Onion, the new Knives Out film. I was running out of time, so I went and saw that. It was awesome. I could tell everyone how great it was, but you're not going to be able to watch it now until December 23rd. So just mark that in your calendar. I also saw The Menu, which I thought was pretty good. It was a little different than I thought it was going to be, but very well acted, very well written, very interesting story, real dark, a lot darker than I was expecting it to be. But I had a lot of fun with that one. And then you and I made it out to see the Fablemans. Keep an eye on this feed and our Patreon feed, all the feeds, because we're going to be talking probably about Fablemans as we get closer to our run up to the Oscars here coming up. But like I said, Michaela, we are in the throes of holiday movie month. And that means talking about one of the all-time classics, one of the best holiday films around, in terms of leaving your child at home when you're flying to France. So why don't we take a quick break and we'll be right back to mix up a couple of cocktails, one for the real adult party and one for the fake adult party. And we're going to get into all that stuff as we talk about Home Alone this week. So sit back and we will be right back.
So, as Brian, you said, we're mixing up two drinks for this week's film. One is got alcohol in it, and one is a non-alcoholic version for anyone who's imbibing mocktails, anything for kids. Now, this is a fairly adult mocktail as far as the flavor profile. So, we've got some substitutions and ideas if you really want to make this super kid friendly. For those that don't need a lot of esoteric stuff, but for true mocktail lovers, we got the drink for you because I think you're going to really like it. Both of these cocktails come from an article on The Bitter Lemon, and it's all about Home Alone themed cocktails and kind of a party. And this is a thing that I think we have missed. My childhood
Yeah.
did not miss out on watching Home Alone, but I have missed out on any of the Home Alone themed parties. I have not been invited to one, and there's
Yeah.
apparently a ton of stuff that people do. They have like pizza parties, and they make their own Little Nero pizza boxes. They have tons of like booby trapped food things that look amazing.
Oh,
And so,
dangerous.
next year when I am not phoning in Christmas because I'm tired from traveling to Brazil, I may have a Home Alone themed party. But until then, we have a couple of drinks that we can share with the world. They're pretty good. They're worth
Yeah.
sitting back and watching a movie with. That's for sure.
Now I'm nervous about going to your house for booby trap food, but that's okay. That's okay. I will definitely go to your house to mix up these cocktails, and that is exactly what we did. So let's start with the adult, the full blown alcoholic, the actual cocktail here, and that is called the South Bend Shovel Slayer. Which is really good name. If you're a little kid and you see your creepy neighbor. You might think that they are the South Bend Shovel Slayer. Turns out they are just a big giant softie with a lot of good advice for you. But this cocktail is delicious. It's super simple. Let's take it away. Michaela, you whipped these up for us. Why don't you run through the ingredients for everyone?
Sure. So this is going to take an ounce of orange flavored vodka, 1.5 ounces of cranberry juice, and some soda water or club soda. And then you're going to garnish this with like a slice of orange. And basically, you just fill a glass with ice, put the vodka in, put the cranberry juice in. You can stir it, top it off with the soda water, and put your garnish on it and drink it. It's now the orange flavored vodka. This particular recipe called for Stoli, I think, or 3 olives. We didn't find that, but what we did find is Effin makes a blood orange vodka, which is very apropos because he's this the South Bend Shovel Slayer is supposed to be like this maniacal, like family killer, like slayer of it. Definitely needed more blood and gore than just regular orange. So that's what we did. And I have to say, this is a really simple cocktail, but it hit the spot. I really liked it.
Yeah, for sure. This thing was delicious. Now, basically, it's a Cosmo, more or less, right? It's a vodka and cranberry juice. You're diluting it because you're serving it over ice, and then it's got the soda water, the club soda there to give it a little bit of effervescence. But I don't know. The effing blood orange vodka is going to be my new jam because that stuff was delicious. I opened it up, smelled it. It hits you with all of this delicious blood orange flavor. It was so good. And yeah, this came together really simple. And cranberry is, I guess, a flavor that we associate with like the holidays this time of year. But this could totally pull double duty. You could drink this right now, wintertime, watching it snow outside, sitting by a fire. You could do that. You could drink this in the summer because it's light and refreshing and delicious. South Bend Shovel Slayer, maybe bad news, but this drink, really good news, I think.
Really good. Yeah. And I feel like, the only critique that I really could give when we were drinking this together was that if you needed just a little more punch, you could add another 1/2 ounce of the vodka into it just to give it a little bit more of an edge. It always helps if you use real cranberry juice. That's important instead of like that mixed cranberry cocktail, because I feel like that dilutes the flavor a bit. If you wanted to make this a little bit more spicy, you could do like a spiced cranberry, and that would probably give it another flavor profile. If you have some, not sure how easy you would be able to find that, not in winter. But again, this was delicious. I really liked it. And because it's so easy, I'm definitely going to turn this into one of my weekly cocktails going forward, because it also is really pretty. It has that really nice kind of, it's like a peachy, reddish peach look to it, which is kind of fun for the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. So give that one a try. Again, that's the South Bend Shovel Slayer. And then the mocktail side of things, we've got the Wet Bandit, which is, just as dangerous sounding as the South Bend Shovel Slayer, I think. But this one is going to be non-alcoholic. We're going to go through the recipe, tell you what we used, and then maybe give you some options here. But what you're going to do is you're going to take a 1/2 cup of kombucha. They used the Health Aid Jalapeno Kiwi Cucumber, which I couldn't find. Health Aid's a pretty big brand. They have that in most of your grocery stores now. It comes in that round bottle that's really cool looking. So I picked up, I think passion fruit was the one we ended up using. I also have done this with like the ginger carrot, which is a little bit more spicy. But anyways, you're going to use a 1/2 cup of your kombucha, a big hearty squeeze of a lime wedge, roughly a teaspoon and a half of agave nectar. I totally didn't measure it. I just kind of squeezed in just a little dollop into your shaker tin with ice. Shake that and then strain it over some ice in your glass, and then you can top that with a little bit of club soda if you need some more effervescence. When you shake kombucha, it's probably going to blow the top off your shaker because it's fermented and it's pretty effervescent. So just be careful there. And then drink this and then enjoy this. Michaela, I was wondering, what did you think about this? Is kombucha something that you drink on the regular, or do you like kombucha?
I do like it. It's supposed to be really good for your gut health. So that's
That's what
kind
the
of
people that make kombucha would have you believe. That's for sure.
that's right. So we actually have a neighbor who makes his own, and so when he makes a new batch, he brings us over a couple to test, and they've only exploded in our face a couple of times. So
Mhm.
I'm going to believe that it's a wonderful act of love and kindness, and rather than trying to give me a homemade bomb. But they're pretty good. I don't mind the kombucha in general, and this was not bad. It had the spiciness to it that I think would be good. It was much more of an adult mocktail than what I would want to give
Mhm.
my kid. Like my son did
Right.
try it, and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I want the whole thing." He was polite about it. I liked it. But I'm kind of a booze hound, so I'm if given the choice, I'm totally gonna do the South Bend Shovel Slayer instead. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And yeah, that was one of the concerns we had. Usually, when we do a mocktail, we definitely run that by your son, and he can do some taste testing on that for us. Now, kombucha is a more adult taste. It's very kind of vinegary and bitter. Kombucha, if you don't know, is just fermented black tea, basically. And then you'll see a lot of times, then obviously they're adding some fruit juice and stuff like that to it to give it some extra depth of flavor and kind of round that out a little bit. But we made this then again with just some fresh pressed, like a strawberry lemonade. I think doing like a fresh pressed juice as opposed to like a bottled juice is really key here because you're adding the agave nectar for your sweetness there. You want it to be a little bit cleaner tasting, but if you have kids or you don't like kombucha, um, then you could definitely do this with just some fruit juice and kind of recreate the same sort of a thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, and what we did was exactly that. My son drank that and then asked, like Oliver Twist, can I have some more? Do you have any more? Is there any more mocktail left? So
Yeah.
definitely another option.
Just like Kevin McAllister's asking for cheese pizza. I love it. So, yeah, so give both of those a try or one of those a try. Let us know what you think about them. Send us pictures, all that good stuff. But for now, Michaela, we have an early morning because we have a flight to catch to Paris, France. Hopefully, we'll all make it to the plane. I don't know, but if not, then we will be charged with protecting our house. So, why don't we take a quick break and we will be right back to talk about this week's film, Home Alone.
Spoiler warning for Home Alone. It's about a kid who's home alone. And we're going to talk all about the things that happen. And if you don't like it, yeah, or if you haven't watched it and you don't want to hear all the things, maybe stick your head out of the sand because this movie's been around a long time. But in all seriousness, we're going to talk about all the things. If you're not ready for it, press pause. Go make yourself. You got 3 options for mocktail, cocktail goodness earlier in this podcast. So go fix yourself up a drink, watch the movie, come back, and we can chat about it.
Yeah, if you've not seen Home Alone, I don't really believe you. So there, I said it because everyone has seen Home Alone for sure. This came out on November the 16th, 1990. It was directed by Chris Columbus. It was written by John Hughes. We actually talked a little bit about this back when we did our John Hughes month last year, which was pretty fun. And John Hughes definitely lends his kind of tone to this and the setting of being in Chicago. So John Hughes through and through. This one stars Catherine O'Hara and John Hurd as Kate and Peter, our very forgetful parents. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern as Harry and Marv, aka the Wet Bandits, and one Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister, and he gets left home alone.
He gets left home alone. Now we're going to talk all about these things. This film did so well, and now there's like 4 Home Alones out there. Only the first 2 really count. Let's just be quick and clear about
Wow.
that.
Revisionist history. I like it.
Yeah, totally. But this film had so many star-studded cast members, and I think all of them did really well. And I did not know this, but it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, which was pretty cool.
That's right. Yeah, it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Not the ones you would think of when you first think of Home Alone. But those 2 Academy Awards came for original score and original song, which was somewhere in my memory. And those were done and composed and beautiful, of course, by John Williams. And I actually want to talk a little bit about kind of the movie or about the music in this film. But before we do that, let's kind of run through this movie a little bit, and then we'll get into kind of the more legacy pieces of this thing, I guess. So, kind of got this story. It's broken down really into three parts, which are pretty good. So you've got kind of the family dynamic here. We are at home. We're in Chicago. We see a policeman standing at the bottom of this very chaotic house, bottom of the stairs, just trying to find someone to talk to because there's about 10,000 people in this very beautiful mansion on the north side of Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. He's talking to all the kids and counting them up. I think there are like 10 children. There's 10 children. There's like 4 adults. They're all running around. It's the night before they're going on a trip. They're looking for things like sunscreen and shampoo, and they're feeding their tarantula, and they're doing all these things. The cop is very confused. He's like, hey, I just need to talk to an adult who lives here, and nobody's parents seem to live here. The parents that do are Kate and Peter, as you said. They're upstairs trying to finish packing. Their son Kevin is bothering them. He's told to go pack his own suitcase. This is kind of a daunting task, I think, for an 8-year-old. I don't know. My son is just now learning how to pack his suitcase, so maybe that makes sense. But he doesn't know what to do, and he's kind of I don't want to say the black sheep of the family, but he's got 4 other brothers or sisters. He's got these 5 cousins that are there.
He's got like 100 cousins and brothers and sisters. It seems like there's just so many kids and so many people running around this house. And yeah, we're kind of loosely getting introduced to some of these people. And yeah, Kevin, I don't know if he's the black sheep of the family, but he's definitely very vocal about his disgruntlement with some things, right? Doesn't want to pack his own suitcase, doesn't know how to do that. The family's getting pizza delivered. He wants his own cheese pizza. Who doesn't love a cheese pizza? I do. My favorite kind of pizza. So yeah, I'd be upset too. And your mean older brother eats all that pizza, and you have to room with Fuller, who is played by your own real life brother, Kieran Culkin, who plays Fuller. And Fuller is over there. He's sucking down like 100 Pepsis. And what does Fuller do when he has too many Pepsis? He wets the bed. All of these things are going against Kevin. They're rubbing him the wrong way. And that gets you sent to bed early with no dinner. And it's bad news. And you say some things to your mom you shouldn't say.
Oh, well, I mean, as a parent, I think they were both
she says
stressed.
Some things maybe to Kevin that you shouldn't say too. To be fair.
Yeah, they both get real upset and they say things that they don't want to, they shouldn't say. But Kevin is like, you know what? Earlier in this, he's like, when I get married and have a family, I'm living alone, which is one of my favorite lines of all time. He's like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe there's so many people in this house. And then he says to his mom that, he wished that he didn't have a family and everybody just around him could just disappear. And joke's on him, because that's kind of what happens.
Yeah,
because they and this part, I really want to talk about the way they set this up, because there are a couple of things that happen, like with the pizza, when Kevin, Kevin's older brother, who is a total bully, his name is Buzz, and he is just awful. He eats this pizza on purpose, knowing that it'll get Kevin angry. Kevin pushes him. Everybody starts to freak out because they get into this big fight. They spill milk all over the passports and the tickets, and that's how Kevin's passport and ticket gets thrown in the trash accidentally. So when they're looking through things the next morning in a mad rush, they don't see that they have an extra ticket or an extra passport, and they've sent Kevin all the way up to the 3rd floor to go to sleep. So he is not going to have to sleep in the bed with Fuller, but then they forget about him when they wake up, and they wake up because I guess there was a lightning storm. So everything got, all the power went out. And so all of their normal alarms didn't go off. This would never happen today because everybody is attached to their phones and all the phones have the alarms. But this was 1990. And so they're running like a crazy, people all around the house. There's a miscue when they try and count all the kids and all the people. There's a way that goes wrong. And so there's a lot of points of failure that are done to ensure that the family leaves the house and leaves their cars there. They have a taxi service, so they leave the house. Kevin wakes up, no one is there, and so he really believes that he made his family disappear.
His family did disappear, seemingly to young Kevin. And yeah, they do a pretty good job of setting this up as to how this could be feasible. There's really kind of three plot holes really in this movie for me, and two of them come right here. You mentioned that they throw away Kevin's passport and ticket, which is fine, but yeah, there is a big winter storm. A branch we see kind of hit these power lines, knocks power out and telephones out to the whole neighborhood. That's important stuff, but this taxi service is coming to get them at the airport at 8 a.m. and everyone's still asleep. I'm an early riser myself, but there's like 15 people in this house. You're not telling me one of those people woke up before 8 a.m. just on their own? Come on, you got to be
Right.
kidding me. That is one. The other thing is they do wake up late. They're in the rush. That's how they miscount and because their annoying neighbor kid comes over. He's being a total buzzkill, but he's there, gets counted in Kevin's place. They get in the vans. They're on their way to O'Hare. And I think that Peter says something that they have like 45 minutes before the flight takes off. You can't drive to O'Hare, and you can't even like walk through O'Hare in 45 minutes. That place is massive.
Right.
So that's the other one. 45 minutes, get out of here. You're missing that
Yeah.
flight 1,000 times out of 1,000, but that's okay. You gotta take a little bit of a grain of salt. And yeah, Kevin has wished his family to be gone. So when you wake up and they're gone, what do you think? You think that they vanished? They didn't, and he is very skeptical of it, and I kind of really love this kind of introductory part where he's home alone and he's like, okay, no one's here, okay, I'm gonna go eat ice cream for breakfast, and I'm gonna watch this movie that I shouldn't be watching, and I'm gonna do all this stuff and eat all the junk food and get into my brother's thing, and he keeps like yelling out, he's like, yeah, having ice cream for breakfast, you better come out and stop me, all this stuff. He's kind of testing the waters, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really love kind of this first section as we get into bachelor mode for Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, an 8-year-old bachelor. That's exactly what it is. He's jumping on the bed. He's putting popcorn everywhere. I love the montage, but as the day goes on, it gets to be a little less fun. He has to do some laundry in the basement. Basement's terrifying. Now, to be fair, I never grew up with a basement, and that basement has like this really weird furnace thing that makes noise and talks to him and is like, Kevin. It's kind of
Yep.
like House of Amityville. Not good. It scares Kevin. He wants his mom. His mom's not there, and that's about when it's like 8 hours. They haven't landed yet. They're in first class. The adults are in first class on a plane, and their kids are in coach. I mean, I don't blame them because that would be ridiculously expensive. I mean, just thinking about it now with coach is ridiculously expensive, but they're sitting there. And she's got this weird feeling, the mom, Catherine O'Hara, and she's like, I think we've forgotten something. We've forgotten something. And John Hurd, who is the best Mr. McAllister that could ever have been, was like, no, it's fine. I left the garage door open. That's what it is. It's fine. And then she screams out Kevin's name because she realizes that he didn't make it onto the plane. He's not there. And this is the second big plot hole, I think, because even in 1990, right, we can make a few exceptions for the fact that they didn't have to go through normal security like we do today, because it was a long time ago. And, you were basically just asked if you were carrying guns and weaponry on the plane, and then they just let you on. It was no big deal, right?
Mhm.
Now you have to basically be strip searched. That takes a lot more time. But even 30 years ago, even in 1990, if they had some sort of event like this on a plane, I want to believe that the pilot would have made some sort of note and contacted the authorities back in Chicago, and they would have started to figure something out. But that does not happen. Basically, and this is probably my husband's biggest problem with this whole film, is when she goes into this moment and realizes that she's lost her son or left her son and at home, everyone just kind of gives her a glass of champagne and huddles around her and holds her hand. And Uncle Frank, who is a big jerk, he's like, well, I forgot my reading glasses. What are you going to do? And no one is like in, problem solving mode. They're just like, it's going to be fine. We'll figure it out when we land in three
They're
hours.
they're in a plane 40,000 feet above the air. What can you do? Nothing. You can't even call the police, because that is exactly what they do when they land. They call because the phone lines are out in the neighborhood. So you call the police, and what are the police going to do? And this is kind of an agitating part of the movie, the way they respond. But I think that is actually pretty realistic. You're like, oh, my kid's home. Could you go check on him? Why, is something wrong with your kid? I don't know, because I'm not there. Well, let's do this. And they end up doing a drive-by. Kevin is a very responsible kid. He knows that there's dangers. Don't answer the door for strangers. So that's what he does, especially because there are dangers out there. You've got the police coming by unannounced. You've got your neighbor Marley, who might be the South Bend shovel slayer. That's what your brother told you, so we're scared of him. And you have these other two running around. Remember that cop that was standing in the house at the beginning? His name's Harry, and he's not a cop. He's a member of the Wet Bandits, him and Marv, and they're casing this neighborhood. He was there in the first place to figure out how to break into this house, which is a very nice house, has a lot of expensive things. So they're lurking around too. So, Kevin is right to be a little nervous. I don't see a plot hole with that at all. That makes total sense to me. And it's Christmas Eve. It's in 1990. It's not like today when there's 10,000 flights. Everyone else wants to get home. I'm not giving up my seat to you, lady. You're the one that forgot your kid. I'm going home on my own flight.
Yeah, they get to France, and I guess the McAllisters have another sister and brother who are in France, and so they're in their apartment or whatever, and the kids are all eating like shrimp cocktail, and the poor dad's like trying to talk to somebody in France, and is like, what is going on? But the mom, she doesn't leave the airport. She goes right back to the ticket counter and is like, we need flight home. I need to get home. And they were like, I'm sorry, ma'am, there's nothing we can do. But they do end up getting her on standby, and she ends up doing a small trip around the world, right? There's a wonderful scene where she is trying to talk to this old kind of grandmotherly lady, giving her like her earrings, her watch, $500, her, next born child. Like she's really trying to give everything she can to get a spot on a ticket on a plane to get her closer and closer to Chicago, because it's not as easy as just booking a flight right back where you came from. And I love it so much because she's in kind of her own adventure as Kevin is dealing with his. And you're right, the Wet Bandits, not good guys, not real smart guys, but they are real funny guys. Joe Pesci and oh my gosh, Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern, yeah. He is a class of his own. I didn't realize, but he has directed some of the funniest, most heartwarming films. He did Rookie of the Year. He's done a lot of amazing stuff. So I love them together. They call themselves the Wet Bandits because Daniel Stern's character, Marv, he really likes to flood the houses after they take all the stuff out. Probably not the best calling card, and we can talk more about that at the end. But so as they hit these houses up and down the street, they then flood it, and so which just adds insult to injury. So not only do these people get home and their house is completely trashed, but it's they've got a bunch of stuff missing as well. It's not cool.
And yeah, you nailed it right there. Harry and Marv, they are maybe not the best of burglars, so to speak, but they are pretty funny. Daniel Stern is great as Marv, and this was. I don't even know if I would call it necessarily like a breakout role, but people really at that time, I think, we were pretty young when this came out, but I think people only really knew of Daniel Stern as being the voice of the narrator for the Wonder Years, right? For being the voice of Kevin in the Wonder Years. So yep. He comes on, they're hilarious, they're up to bad news. But the important part of the story, we talked about Kate and her struggles. We talked about the Wet Bandits and what they're getting up to. But the important part of this section really is Kevin and all the fun he is having at his house, living life, right? He is breaking into his brother's room, getting into all of his stuff. He finds some firecrackers in there. It's really, really kind of clever the way they do it. Buzz, his older brother, has this big, scary tarantula, and that needs to be broken out. So how do you do that? You have him climb up this bookshelf to get to Buzz's secret stash where he has all of his life savings. That's the money he needs to order pizza and go to the store to buy, American Dental Association approved toothbrushes. That's pretty great. I kind of love that. But yeah, the section of the movie is so fun. It's so fun for kids to watch because, every kid has like this fantasy of like, if I could do anything I want, at home and be all by myself, what would I do? What are the things I would do? I would take a BB gun and I would shoot starting lineup figures in the laundry chute. I would do that. I would watch movies that I'm not supposed to watch. I would eat ice cream for breakfast. But like you said, Michaela, eventually Kevin has to do some things he doesn't like to do. You have to do laundry if you're living by yourself. You have to go out and buy milk, things like that at the store. And I really just kind of love this progression of Kevin, like I said, kind of wading into the waters of being home alone, and then the realization of what that really means for him ultimately, and then what that means to be without your family. And it really gets to kind of the real, I don't know, kind of crux of this movie. You think of it as like this
Mm-hmm.
comedy action sort of thing, but really it's not until he comes face to face with his neighbor, old man Marley, at the church, and they kind of talk about the way that you know family is important, and being brave, and what it takes to keep that family dynamic going. But yeah, this section of the movie, I think, obviously it's Home Alone. It's Kevin McAllister's Macaulay Culkin's movie, but that stuff, yeah, is all really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really love the first night because I think he only spends one whole night. So it's maybe like a 48-hour period that he's actually home alone. But at night, the wet
Well, I think
bandits
it's I
come
think
to
it's 2 nights because
is
he
it two
has he has
nights?
he has the fake party, which is very genius
Oh
of a
yeah.
kid, where he has all the mannequins and the Michael Jordan thing on the train going when Harry and Marv show back up to break into the house, and
Yeah.
he's having this party,
Yeah.
which is great. And then the second night, kind of this penultimate where
Right.
he
Right.
creates this house of doom. So
Right, right. No, I really love that whole scene where the wet bandits are there and they're going to try and case this particular house, but it looks like the place is bumping because he's got music everywhere. And the way he set that up, and he's kind of having his own dance party with all of these things because he knows that his house is being cased. Doesn't call the police. Still don't know. They said that the lines were still out, and so maybe that's why. But also you do want this to be something that he solves himself. Another one of my favorite scenes is when he decides to sled down down his stairs. Now
mhm.
this is a cool house. This house has a dual staircase kind of thing. It's got a front staircase that's very pretty, and then there's another kind of back of the house staircase that goes into the kitchen. This one is very straight. It's very very steep, and he opens the door and he sleds right out into the front yard, and it's amazing. And yeah, the dynamic with Marley, the old man, aka the South Bend Shovel Slayer, I love that. I love that whole scene. Again, the music is beautiful. Whoever scored, well, we know John Williams scored it, but whoever picked the actual music to add from a soundtrack perspective was also really smart because it's really pretty. The church is actually really beautiful, and it's kind of this quieter. It's not a religious moment, but it's really, like you said, the deeper meaning of what this film is all about. And one of the things that I really love is when old man Marley says, you can be too old for a lot of things, but you're never too old to be afraid. And you're never too old to face that fear. And so Marley shared with him, Kevin, that, the reason why he's at church is because it's the only way he can really see his granddaughter. He and his son had a falling out years and years ago. And he'd like to call him and just talk to him, but he's afraid. And, I love this because while Kevin is learning from him, Kevin is also teaching him, which is what happens in life, right? You learn from these children that are in your life one way or another. And then you also get to teach them some things because parents and adults don't always have the answers, which is just a really nice layer to this kind of fun film that has a much deeper, heartwarming message. So Kevin's got a plan. He says bye to Marley.
Yeah,
He heads out of the church. The bells start chiming, and he realizes it's time to go home
it
and
is.
start a war.
It is go time. Yeah, the scene there with Marley is incredible. It's my favorite part of the movie. Like even way back when I was young, I just really love that and kind of the sentiment of it. And then as he's leaving the church to go home, John Williams is going bananas with this riff on Carol of the Bells. It's awesome, and I love it because you get Kevin kind of running through his neighborhood, and all of the houses like Christmas lights on these timers that we've learned about earlier on are clicking on like as he's running past the house, and it looks super awesome. And he gets home just in time time to get himself a microwave dinner and set up the house, to protect us. He closes the door, must protect this house. Yeah, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So then we get to like the fun part of the movie. Everyone likes this part of the movie, for sure. 100 people out of 100 like this because he's setting up all sorts of fun little traps, which is fun to think about. It's fun to see. It's very kind of slapsticky and funny. Joe Pesci is a really funny guy. He's very funny in these scenarios, and Daniel Stern is funny in these scenarios for sure. So, Michaela, this house of booby traps and horrors. There's a bunch of them. We don't need to talk about all of them, but what are some of your favorite ones? If you were going to be keeping burglars from getting into your house, which of these methods would you employ? I mean, calling the police. I would call the police, but
yeah, it's probably what I would do first. And then I would hide.
But pretend you are 8 years old.
Right.
You have been left home alone. What would you do?
I gotta say, I think it's genius now. It was not my favorite kind of growing up, but I love that he puts all of his micro machines on the floor for people to step on, because as an adult, those things are like little baby knives that go right into your feet. They hurt, you cuss, you fall, and they're running. The wet bandits are running, so they kind of do this flying thing, and then they fall down. It's really hilarious. And he got the idea, and I just realized this. He got the idea from his dad, because at the very beginning of the film, he's like, "Hey, go pick up those micro machines. Your aunt nearly fell and broke her neck." Yeah. I love that one. We got to talk about the big tarantula moment, because that is just one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It still makes me laugh.
The tarantula moment is pretty good. We'll circle back to that. My favorite and also least favorite. You mentioned stepping on the micro machine, hurt your feet. There's a lot of bad feet stuff. So stepping on the ornaments. But I hate watching this one so much. Marv is going up the steps, which he's covered in like roofing tar. His shoes and socks are getting pulled off because they're getting stuck to this thing. And then steps right down onto a nail. Oh my gosh, that hurts so bad. Seeing it, Daniel Stern lets out the loudest shriek. It sounds so awesome, and I love it, and I hate it. It's terrible, but that's a good one for me. And then the tarantula. That's the best. Again, Daniel Stern is the best at screaming, I think.
He sure. Really is, and I would love to know how they did this, because it's a real tarantula, and they're fighting with each other, and they're on the floor, and Kevin is trying to get away. They've got Kevin by the boot, and he sees the tarantula that was in his brother Buzz's room. When he broke the shelves, the tarantula got out, and it didn't need to eat anything because it had just had a couple of mice or whatever right before they left. But he sees the tarantula. Kevin grabs the tarantula and puts it right on Daniel Stern's face. And Daniel Stern lets out the best shriek I have ever heard in my entire life. I mean, I still laugh every time I see it. And then he grabs it, the tarantula, and he throws it. Now, you never actually want to do that. If it's someone's pet tarantula, you need to be really careful, because it can really hurt them. They're actually you need to be pretty gentle with them. Their abdomens are quite soft. Anyway, so the tarantula kind of falls and is fine, but is on Joe Pesci's character's chest. And so then, of course, Marv grabs a crowbar, because that'll kill it. And he's telling Harry to like hold still. And Harry is laying on the ground. He's kind of loopy still from whatever's happened previously, and he's got his eyes open, and he sees Marv staring at him with this devil look, and he's like, "Hold still, don't move." And he's like, "What are you doing with the crowbar? What is going on?" And so he ends up getting beat with the crowbar a couple times. Oh, it's hilarious. Oh, so funny.
I love it, and just the way Joe Pesci is looking up at him, he's like, "What are you doing, Marv?" he's so scared. And then, but yeah, ultimately, Kevin kind of makes his escape. He does finally call 911, tells them that he's at the neighbor's house. He rappels into the treehouse and down into the neighbor's house, but ultimately, Kevin is a young kid. Harry and Marv are going to get the one up on them. They kind of cut him off there through the house as he's wading through all this water that's flooded down into the basement. I'd like to think that the water company might come and check on why there's like been 10 billion gallons of water used at your house, but that's okay. He gets there. They hang Kevin up on this hook, But luckily, just in time, our new best friend, Marley, not really the South Bend shovel slayer, but Marley does wield a mean shovel, comes in and clocks these two over the head, and day saved. Just in time for your mom to get back. Your mom has made it, flew from Paris to Dallas, from Dallas to uh, Scranton, Pennsylvania,
Scranton. Yep.
and is now in a van with the Kenosha Kickers, I think their name is,
That's right.
led by John Candy. And John Candy is amazing. Rest in peace, John Candy. Just a delight in this movie and in every movie for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good. I really love the whole journey that his mom goes through. Because at first she's just terrified that he's not okay. Then she's thinking about herself and the choices that she's made, and she's like, how could we do this? How could I forget him? And then I love the scene where she's at the airport talking to this very scared kind of flight administrator, and she's like, is there any way I could get on a flight? And they say, oh no, I can get you on a flight tomorrow. And she's like, no, 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 no. This is Christmas. It's a season of perpetual hope. And she's hanging on by a very thin thread, right? And she's like, I have been from Dallas to Ohio to Scranton to, I don't care if I have to go out on the highway and hitchhike, if I have to sell my soul to the devil himself, I need to go home. And this is right when John Candy kind of walks in and kind of saves the day. And he's so great. And what I've been told is almost everything that he did was ad-libbed, which just makes it even more amazing. Especially when he's talking about who he is and all the music that he's made that like no one's listened to.
Yeah.
And someday I'm going to talk about Drink the Movies the way that he talks about the Kenosha Kickers, where, she's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And she's like, and he's like, oh, we're the Kenosha Kickers. I mean, we did the Kiss Me polka and we sold 652 copies of that. They loved us in Sheboygan.
Yeah. In Chicago?
It's so great.
No, in Sheboygan. Yeah.
In Sheboygan. They loved us in Sheboygan.
Yeah, Gus Polinski and his traveling band there. Yeah, they load up into like the back of like that budget rental truck and are there playing. That would be so loud to play your instruments inside of a metal moving truck. But that's okay. And Kate has been through the ringer to get herself home, obviously feels bad, and she gets there to see Kevin. He is safe and sound. The house is in order, except for Buzz's room, which much to the dismay of Buzz. But, she gets back and, she apologizes. And you have this little moment where Kevin's just kind of looking at her. But really, it's because he's a smart aleck. He is thrilled to the nines to see his mom again. They go over and embrace, just literal moments before Peter and the rest of his gigantic extended family come through the door. So all that trouble and turmoil Kate went through was all for naught, although it's not any trouble and turmoil that I would think any mother or father would go through to get back to their kid. The other plot hole, I don't think any of these plot holes are really that important for me, but I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Ohio. Kate is from Chicago. And if there's one thing about people from the Midwest, we will drive any distance to go anywhere to avoid going to the airport. So all she had to do was get to the continent of North America, and she could have rented a car and driven. It wouldn't have mattered how long it would have taken. I think the drive from Dallas to Chicago is only like 16 hours. She could have done that. That would have been easy peasy. So that's the other one. So, but that's okay. I digress. I think, I think it's a really good story, and I think it has like this really, really good kind of deeper message beyond the fact that Kevin McAllister is home alone and kind of all this hijinks stuff ensues. I think that a lot of people look at the movie just as that kind of surface level, but I think that there's a lot more going on there, and I think that that's probably why it's so well beloved. So let's get into that a little bit, Michaela. This came out in 1990. It was made for just under $20 million. It made like $500 million, an insane amount of money. It was the highest grossing comedy until Hangover 2 came out, like in 2011, which is a really long time. That's a really good return on your money. But do you remember this 1990, Michaela, when this came out?
I do. I remember seeing it in the theater with my dad. And I remember my dad doesn't like films that make him cry. It really bothers him, especially in a theater. But we both had some happy tears at the end because because of like you just said, there's so much more than just this, kid pulling over these bandits. The very last scene, it's snowing, and Kevin is looking out the window, and his family's in, and they're all, getting unpacked and everything. Kevin looks out the window, and he sees next door. He sees a little girl who looks very familiar, walking in to the house. He sees this, what looks like her dad, kind of shaking the hand of this old man. And then he turns around and it's Marley. And Marley's holding his granddaughter, and it's just lovely. And he waves, and it's just such a really nice moment, because then you know that Marley called and talked to his son, and it's just awesome. And look at me, I'm tearing up just talking about it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
that's
Yeah.
why it's so good, because not only is it so hilarious and so funny, but it also really makes you feel that Christmassy feeling. It is definitely one of those films that makes you want to call the people you love, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so going back to 1990, I mentioned a little bit about kind of the box office returns on this thing. This movie was huge. Like it was everywhere. It was like the number one movie for 12 straight weeks, like well past Christmas when it came out. It propelled Macaulay Culkin went on to have like this very crazy kind of child star career where he was making tons of money. It really kind of propelled the careers. Catherine O'Hara now, we know as Moira from Schitt's Creek, and Joe Pesci, who had an excellent career, but Daniel Stern, who had been doing some like comedy and those kinds of things. Like I said, was narrating The Wonder Years, but went on to do a bunch of directing and other acting and stuff like that. It was this weird kind of time and place. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Kevin McAllister doing that scream when he put on that Brut
Right.
aftershave, which doesn't really burn unless you've just shaved. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. It was very important. Brut became very popular in 1990 again. It definitely had some second legs from that. But yeah, you mentioned it, Michaela. There's so much more to this movie, because it's very easy to look at it, like I said, on the surface level of it's this fun rompy thing where this kid gets left home alone and then sets a
Yeah.
bunch of booby traps, but there's so much more to it going on. And part of that, I told you at the top, I wanted to kind of circle back to that. Part of that is the score from John Williams, which is fantastic. It is amazing. I want to know how the meeting went, where they were like, we're going to make this movie about this kid who gets left home alone and beats up some robbers. You know what we need? We need the guy that did Raiders of the Lost Ark. We need the music from that in our movie. like I don't know how that meeting went to bring him on, but it's amazing, and it's such a good like soundtrack of Christmas. And John Williams, is the maestro. He can elicit emotions that you never even knew you were capable of feeling as this thing plays out, and it pairs so perfectly, and really kind of hits at those tones, which is why it's so beloved.
Yeah.
Whether you get hung up on the plot holes, which is fine. That's not a big deal, because that's not the important stuff here, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you get caught up in the plot holes, it's because you're Scrooge. Because this really, the biggest plot hole towards the end, I didn't even think about the fact that she could have just driven. The fact that the house is completely cleaned up without a mark, and like 6 hours before, he had tar and feathers and all sorts of stuff roaming through the house. That's the biggest one to me. But never underestimate a kid who wants to make Christmas morning happen, and have his family magically come. So maybe that's the lesson there. But yeah, I absolutely loved the score. I think it's one of those, and we've talked about it. We've had the privilege to talk about it a lot, because we've seen a lot of films with great scores. But this is something that if you hear while you're out shopping, or you hear on the radio, you're immediately going to know where it's from, and it's gonna tug at your heartstrings, much the way that some of the scenes in the movie did. It's so great, and it's worth talking about. It's something that has lasted for 32 years now, right? So they did a sequel. The only one that's worth talking about is Home Alone 2, in my opinion, and that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. And that we'll talk about Home Alone 2 maybe some other Christmas time. But that was really interesting, because they had to figure out a way to keep this going and actually keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But they did do that. Now they've had a couple of really cool commercials now that feature kind of the Home Alone house, which is in Winnetka, Illinois. Um, there's a Lego Home Alone house, which actually was my Christmas present to myself. It was an early Christmas present, and I'm almost done with it. And it's amazing. They have so many things now that are kind of entrenched in this movie and have the foundations of this movie in kind of pop culture today, and it's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
And that's why one of the reasons why we picked it, because it's an oldie but a goodie, and it doesn't even feel that old.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel that old, but this movie doesn't feel that old for sure. Like you said, Home Alone 2, which was basically kind of a reprisal of the same cast. Then you had Home Alone 3, Home Alone 4, Taking Back the House, Home Alone, The Holiday Heist in 2012, and then just as recently as last year on Disney Plus, they had Home Sweet Home Alone, which was kind of a new telling. I think that maybe Buzz was back and came back to the house. I never watched it, so I'm not 100% sure because, yeah, the first two are really, really the bee's knees. That's what the ones you want to focus on. So, yeah, with that, Michaela, I think that is going to conclude it for Home Alone. It's really good. If you've been listening to this, I mean, everyone's seen Home Alone. Generally, universally loved. Kind of a holiday staple for people, and definitely a lot of good. Kind of coming of age type of stories. This one hits on different levels as you age with it, which is really kind of neat to do. So let us know what you think about Home Alone at your own home. Let us know if it's in your annual Christmas holiday rotation, and let us know if you make a South Bend Shovel Slayer or a Wet Bandit. Take pictures of them, tag us on all of the social medias. Send us some pictures because we love to see them. So you can do that on our Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to get the recipe for ours, that's www.drinkthemovies.com. Make sure you are joining us on Discord. Link is in the bio. You can come in. We've been doing a lot of chatting about cocktails. Been having a lot of fun over there, and make sure you are tuning into our Patreon because next week, Michaela, we're going to be talking about A Christmas Story on the main show, but on Patreon, we're going to be doing our second Patreon exclusive episode talking about A Christmas Story Christmas, and we did a really fun cocktail for that one, so you want to make sure you check that out. It's at patreon.com/drink the movies. And Michaela, once everyone at home is done listening to this, once they've made their South Bend Shovel Slayer, their Wet Bandit, they probably want to find more, Christmas movies that we've talked about, for sure. So where should they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and Good Pods, anywhere where Anchor podcasts are supported and distributed. We have 3 Christmas seasons. This is amazing. We have this is our 3rd Christmas season, so we have a ton of Christmas movies that we've talked about. If you're in the spirit and you want to get more into the spirit, we've done a lot of really amazing Christmas cocktails. So if you're liking what you're hearing, subscribe for all the new stuff. We do 2 drops a week. If you want, you can leave us a 5-star review. That'd be amazing. But all of our stuff is archived as well. We're at 105 episodes, so that's a lot of, and that's not even counting the lobby bars. So there's a lot of drinks out there. Check us out. We're really excited. We're really grateful to be helping build this community and support all of those who love films and love cocktails alike, and especially during the holiday season. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, make sure you tag us and do all that stuff. But for now, Michaela, I need to mix myself up a South Bend Shovel Slayer because I got to get to the mall. I got to see Santa Claus about bringing me a Red Ryder BB gun. So we're going to do that, and we're going to talk all about it next time on
Drink the
the
Movies.
Movies. This is it. Don't get scared now.
I got nothing. What? I said all the things I was going to. No. This is Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. There's so many good ones.
Oh, there are so many good
Drop
ones.
the ball. Drop the ball.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.